Hey class, good Sunday morning and welcome back. I can't believe I'm saying this, but welcome back to the last week of our introductory psychology course. It feels weird to say that. It seems like we just started yesterday. I know we started in October, a little bit later, but the time has just flown by. So maybe that's the point of the 8-week class. You just kind of stay busy and time flies by. So we've got a lot to cover this week. We've got I just want to pre-warn you, it is a kind of a busy week. So this is, I really want you to kind of give it your all this week, and then guess what? You got a nice long break afterwards, where you can kick back and reap the rewards of your hard work. You can enjoy the break and, hang out with some friends and loved ones and all that. So, I've tried to post from my desktop again, and for some reason the camera isn't working, so I have to go with my laptop. I don't know why it worked last week, doesn't work this week. Technology. Anyways, welcome back. Just a heads up, this is a reminder that our third exam that covers chapters 9 through 12 is due tomorrow evening at 11:59 p.m. So I think several of you have already taken it. Great. But if you have not taken it, please make sure you do so. Please don't miss that. It's the last week, so got to get those grades in. So once you have done that, you are ready to move on to the last two chapters of our course. Chapters 13 and 14. Chapter 13 is sort of a follow-up to Chapter 12. Chapter 12, we talked about psychological disorders. Chapter 13 is the methods of therapy, or how we would treat those disorders. So after reading Chapter 13, you'll be able to define what psychotherapy is and describe sort of the historical look at how we used to treat psychological disorders. You'll also describe you'll look at some of the traditional methods, approaches like psychoanalysis or short-term psychodynamic therapy. You'll look at humanistic therapy. You'll define what behavioral therapy is, and you'll be able to define what behavioral therapy is and identify different approaches to behavioral therapy. In addition, also cognitive therapy and looking at Beck's approach to cognitive therapy as sort of a historical approach to cognitive therapy. You'll look at the difference between individual and group therapy. There are drawbacks to both. There are benefits and drawbacks to both, You'll be able to look at, you look at some of the standards for what makes psychotherapy work, regardless of the philosophy behind it. There's a lot of different ideas about psychotherapy, but generally there's some kind of ground. There's some common rules that as long as your therapy provides these, meets these criteria, you're good. And then also describe some of the methods of biological therapy. Biological therapy is through the use of medications. Very commonplace nowadays, through the use of electroshock therapy, which you may have heard of, also psychosurgery, which you're going to read about. We have a discussion post. Our last discussion post this week is about psychosurgery, specifically prefrontal lobotomies, a very infamous procedure that many of you probably have heard of. So read Chapter 13. Afterwards, you'll read Chapter 14 on social psychology. This is a really interesting chapter because it's where the subjects of psychology and sociology blend. They sort of cross paths, and it was one of my favorite topics as an undergrad psychology major. So afterwards, you're going to be looking at, by reading Chapter 14, you're going to be reading about attitudes and being able to discuss factors that shape our attitudes. You'll be looking at the difference between prejudice and discrimination, and how those two fit together and how they're related to attitudes. You'll look at other interpersonal factors like attraction and love. So it's not all just bad stuff, not like prejudice and discrimination. It's actually about why we bond together too. You'll look at social perception and factors that influence it. You'll look at some really interesting experiments about obedience to authority figures. You'll be looking at the Stanford Prison Experiment, Milgram's study of obedience, and Ash's study of conformity. So some really, really cool stuff. 3 very infamous experiments in psychology. Also, you'll be looking at what contributes to aggression. And then finally, looking at the differences between the ways in which people behave as individuals and members in a group. People behave drastically different when they're in a group setting versus when they're by themselves. I mean, think about it like sporting events. Like, people will boo. They'll yell boo at somebody. But as an individual, would you ever do that if you were by yourself? Would you Would you boo somebody? Probably not. It's kind of getting caught up in that swell of the crowd that makes it, I don't know, changes our behavior, changes our mindset. It's really interesting. So please read chapters 13 and 14. There is a discussion post on chapter 13 specifically about prefrontal lobotomies. I want you to look up some information about prefrontal lobotomies and share that with a class, share that with each other and talk about it, because I think it's a really interesting procedure that there's movies about. There's lots of pop culture references. You've probably heard about it before. So anyways, there's that. And then also our last exam is posted and it's due this Friday as well. Our grades are due, I think, Saturday. So I have to get your exam grades in by Friday. The exam only covers chapters 13 and 14. It's only 2 chapters this time. So a little less to work with. There's still 50 questions. It's multiple choice. But yeah, so it only covers 2 chapters though. So just a quick recap. If you haven't taken exam 3, please do so. You'll need to read chapters 13 and 14. There's a discussion post due by Friday and an exam that is due by Friday. I know that's a lot due at the end, guys, but it's just kind of the way the schedule ended up working out. 8-week classes are kind of cramped together, and so I also wanted to leave by saying thank you for helping to make this a productive and enjoyable and interesting 8-week course. This is the first time I taught an 8-week course over the summer. I haven't taught one in the middle of the semester before, so it was kind of a learning process for me to you start teaching and then you got to start teaching again in the middle of the semester. It was kind of it threw me off a little bit. And so thank you all for bearing with me. Thank you all for dealing with my issues at the beginning, thinking the course started earlier than it did. Again, I apologize for that and I hope I didn't stress anybody out, but I've really enjoyed reading your discussion posts. That's how the way I've gotten to know you and your writing assignments. And so I wish you all the best of luck. I'm teaching a lifespan development course next semester. I don't know if you have a free spot in your schedule, feel free to sign up. It's online. I'd love to have see some familiar faces or see some familiar discussion posts, I should say. So anyways, hope you get through this week. It probably won't be all that fun, but once you get through it, guess what? It's break and it's a month off. So enjoy it. Have a great break and I'll hopefully see you around somewhere. All right. Take care. Bye.